Yes, it is another day and it is story time with the villagers. And today, I want to tell you about something. Few years back, a large bank robbery happened in the UK. Hostages were taken, 26.5 million pounds was stolen, and this came to be the largest bank robbery in the history of the United Kingdom. Yes.
What exactly happened?
First, we have two employees of that northern bank. These two employees have their happy separate families. They go to work and come back as their usual daily routines. These two employees stay with their families in separate homes, in separate places. One of the two employees is called Chris Ward, who stays at a place called Downpatrick, County Down, UK. While the second employee, who is also a bank supervisor by the name Kevin McMullan, stays at a place called Polglass, West Belfast, UK. Now, it is a night of Sunday 19th December 2004. In a way which seems coordinated, groups of armed men arrive at the separate homes of Chris Ward and Kevin McMullan, the employees of the Northern Bank. Chris Ward is taken from his house in County Down and driven to Polglass, where Kevin McMullan, his bank supervisor, was staying. Kevin McMullan had been tied up by armed men masquerading as officers from the Police Service of Northern Ireland. They used to call it PSNI.
Very bad people.
And what happened to their families?
As Chris Ward is taken away from his home at Downpatrick, County Down, gunmen remain at Ward's home, keeping his family hostage. On this other side, at Kevin McMullan's home, McMullan's wife is also taken away from her home and held at unknown location. It is 6 a.m. Monday morning, 20th December 2004. Criminals instruct Kevin McMullan and Chris Ward to report for work as normal at the bank's headquarters as they hold both of their families hostage separately. On top of that, they warn them that if you do anything stupid by trying to report anywhere or by trying to let us arrested in any way, your families will be killed. Now, Chris Ward and Kevin McMullan, the bank employees, have gone to the bank as ordered by the gang. The gang constantly keeps in touch with them using mobile telephones they had given to them. So that Monday, they are ordered to tell the staff to go home early. Still on phone, they are ordered to fill one bag with 1 million pounds. Chris Ward, the bank employee, is then asked to leave the bank carrying the bag and go to a nearby bus stop at a place called Upper Queen Street, where one of the robbers picks up the 1 million pound bag from Chris Ward and vanishes.
So, is that the only money they took?
No, remember, the money that was stolen from the Northern Bank was 26.5 million pounds. And by taking the bag of 1 million pounds from Chris Ward, it was just a test run or just a warm-up for the main theft that was going to take place in the evening. So McMullan and Ward are ordered on phone to remain at the bank at work after close of business, and are instructed to load more crates of banknotes on trolleys. They are also ordered to tell the security staff manning the bank that they are just moving out rubbish for collection. So they made 4 good trips of moving the trolleys of money from the basement to the bullion bay outside, where money was being picked and dropped off.
So, how did the security guys fail to detect this money while being transported outside the bank?
Remember, first off, this is a do or die thing. The family of both bank employees are held hostage at gunpoint back at their homes and somewhere else for the case of McMullan's wife. Now, this is a matter of life and death situation. So they have to execute their duties as required by the criminals if they wanted to save their families.
Of course.
So, in this case, as Chris Ward and Kevin McMullen, the bank employees, were moving crates of money from the bank, they covered the crates with office furniture and empty cardboard boxes to disguise them so that the security guys can be convinced that, they are just moving out office trash that they are tired of. This is when after Chris Ward called the gang that, hello, the package has already arrived at the bullion. Come over and pick it. And soon, the white van comes to the headquarters. And after, Kevin McMullen, who is a bank supervisor, gives security an info that this is the rubbish van. So the van is permitted to enter at the bay, where it took the two bank employees 15 minutes to load all the money in the van.
So quick.
How long did this robbery take?
As the van took away the cash, Chris Ward and Kevin McMullen, the bank employees, were ordered to return back to the bank and pick up more trolleys of money. By the time the van returned, they had only filled 2 more trolleys of money, which were again wheeled up from the basement to the van, and the van left. The 2 employees, by this time, they were technically free. So they decided to lock up the bank, set alarms, and left as usual.
Yeah.
But remember, the security personnel in that bank is present and still not knowing what is taking place. That is when the 2 employees, Chris Ward and Kevin McMullen, decided that now they drive away to Chris Ward's home, where they found the masked men were still guarding his family at gunpoint. It was not until around 9 p.m. in the night that's when the criminals left. But before leaving, they had to carefully erase any forensic trace of their presence by scrubbing surfaces down and taking away any cups that they had used.
Smart thugs.
And what happened next?
After 20 minutes, Kevin McMullen, one of the bank employees now at Chris Ward's residence, tells Chris that, I think these criminals must have now long gone. So let me drive back home. So off he drives. Around the same time, McMullen's wife was also driven from an unknown area where she was being held hostage to a place called Drumkirag Forest. And she was released. She found her way to a house where she raised an alarm, where she was treated for hypothermia.
Sorry.
At 11 p.m. in the night, following his final instruction as directed earlier by the criminals, Chris Ward calls the police to inform them that the robbery has taken place.
So by this point in time, how much did these criminals take?
The criminals took a total of 26.5 million pounds, whereby 16.5 million pounds was the uncirculated Northern Bank sterling pound banknotes.
Oh God.
5.5 million pounds was the used Northern Bank sterling pound notes.
Continue.
4.5 million pounds was used notes supplied by other banks and smaller cash amounts in other currencies, including euros and US dollars.
Jesus!
Therefore, in this circumstance, the new and uncirculated notes, which was totaling to around 9 million pounds, would be hard to launder, since the bank immediately announced the serial numbers.
Hey, these guys got loaded.
But the already used notes were untraceable. So the police quickly set up an investigation composed of 50 detectives. Assistant Chief Constable, by then, he was called Sam Kinsaid, once commented that this was not a lucky crime. It was a well-organized crime.
He saw it.
So, how was all this matter handled from that point onwards?
Now, remember, money is gone. And since this robbery was organized and executed with the level of high complexity and extremely sophisticated manner, and because of some elements of fear, the Police Service of Northern Ireland, PSNI, at the beginning refused to be involved into commenting or concluding as to who might have been involved in this kind of robbery or money heist. Ask me why.
Why?
This is because a number of commentators, journalists, media houses, and papers quickly started blaming that this kind of robbery and operation was so coordinated, and it must have been done by some members of the Provisional Irish Republican Army. This even made one senior police officer to support the blame by saying that yes, this must be true, because this kind of operation required great expertise and coordination. Even probably, he said that what happened was much more than even what a loyalist city gangs could do.
I agree with you.
It was just beyond normal people of Northern Ireland.
So why was the police either looking to be fearing or blaming the army in this robbery?
Before I tell you why the police seemed to be blaming the army in this robbery, let me take you back slightly.
Okay.
To put you quickly into layman understanding, so that you can understand this, years back, around 1968, it can even date further back, Northern Ireland wanted to separate from United Kingdom and never wanted to be under the Great Britain in any way. This brought division within Northern Ireland between those who wanted to still remain under UK and Britain and those who wanted to separate from UK and Britain at large. Among many other ideologies which brought about sectarianism, ethnicity in the country. So, those who wanted to separate from UK and Britain staged a fierce resistance and a series of guerrilla wars against the pro-UK British loyalists with their ideologies, of course.
Continue.
So, this war lasted for the whole 30 years, from 1968 to 1998, where technically those supporting Britain UK with other ideologies were defeated. So peace treaties and several agreements were done to bring about peace, which again lasted to around 2004 and 2005. So as Northern Ireland was recreating and reorganizing its nation and government, the Provisional Irish Republican Army, a paramilitary force that fought and ended the British rule in Northern Ireland, was recognized as a national army. Those are the very fighters who defeated the pro-UK loyalists and their ideas.
And how was the army involved in the Northern Bank robbery?
This is how it was thought. Provisional Irish Republican Army consisted of a highly trained group of individuals, and so no one in the whole country matched their level. And since there was still that blood of ethnicity, sectarianism, and ideological differences, and so on in Northern Ireland, you find that media houses, journalists, commentators, and even the police service of Northern Ireland were having an element of UK-British kind of propaganda and loyalism, which was obviously against the ideologies of the Irish Republican Army, who were subscribing on the other side of the coin.
Okay.
That's why you find that there was that blame game from the police, journalists, and commentators who ganged up against the Provisional Irish Republican Army, who were equally a feared force in the country. That is why it was easy for someone to conclude easily that that was a force which could decide to take an advantage of anything at any time in the country, hence being linked with the robbery that took place. But who knows? Stay with me as you hear what happened next.
Was there any further accusations against the members of the Ireland Republican Army in this robbery?
Yes. Remember, money is gone. Nowhere to be found. Things are getting more complicated. Individuals who are involved in the robbery are never known. They don't know who the hell they are and where the hell are they. For heaven's sake, apart from the two bank employees, Kevin McMullen and Chris Ward, who are just victims in the robbery. So
Yeah.
things get more complicated as they now turn political.
And how was this robbery becoming political?
Listen, it is 7th January, the year is 2005. The Chief Constable of the Police Service of Northern Ireland, his name was Hugh Orde, without fear or favor, issues an interim report in which he blamed the Provisional Ireland Republican Army for the robbery. As if that is not enough, the British government comes in and supports Orde's assessments by saying that yes, indeed, it is the members of the Ireland Republican Army who are involved in the robbery.
How sure were they?
That's not all. The biggest Republican and Democratic Socialist Party in both Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland, the party is called Sinn Féin, also joins in and claimed that Constable Orde's claims is totally false and misleading. The party firmly stood with the army, saying that the Ireland Republican Army had not conducted the raid and they cannot do that, saying that Orde's accusations represented nothing more than politically biased allegations and propaganda. After, it was seen that this big political party Sinn Féin was defending the Ireland Republican Army. So media houses in the UK, commentators, some politicians, including the Minister for Justice, his name was Michael McDowell, ganged up against this party Sinn Féin for supporting the army to do the bank robbery, and the party should be fined. But remember, those were just accusations and allegations. People who could have robbed the bank could even not be being close to the army.
True.
They could be simple civilians. But let us see what unfolds.
But was this robbery investigated?
Remember, the 26.5 million pounds stolen from the Northern Bank was an equivalent amount of money which could run the economy of several countries by that time in Africa.
Yeah, true.
So this is what happens. It is on 10th February 2005. Houses are searched around a place called Berach County, UK. Two brothers are searched in connection with the robbery, but nothing is found. February 17th, 2005, a place called Garda. 7 people are arrested. 2,060,000 pounds is recovered. The money is checked, then it is discovered that indeed it is the same banknotes which was raided in the Northern Bank. But later, it could not be proved that they were in connection with the Northern Bank robbery. The suspects are set free.
Lucky guys.
Many places were later searched. Many people were arrested. Portions of lots of money found, but not necessarily from the Northern Bank robbery. But later, those arrested were released for lack of sufficient evidence, thus causing a huge setback in investigation efforts.
What happened to the previous bank employees, Chris Ward and Mark Mullen?
After all sorts of money recovery investigations and arrests proved unsuccessful and futile, now the police service of Northern Ireland sits back and says that, wait, why don't we go back to those very employees who were used in this robbery? So they went back to Chris Ward's house, one of the 2 bank employees threatened by the gang during the robbery, right?
Yes.
So it was on 29th November 2005, I remember, when they thoroughly searched his home. But then the police then realized that Ward also had another part-time job at a place called Casement Park. It was something like Gaelic Athletic Association Stadium and Social Club. It was in West Belfast. The police brought another reinforcement of 25 Land Rovers and they raided the place. Technically, Chris Ward was under arrest, and by December 2005, in a surprise move, Chris Ward was prosecuted for robbery and using firearm, which is unclear on how the prosecuting team reached to that.
And what was the prosecution's further argument?
The prosecution team argued that they decided to prosecute him basing on how he was acting in the days before and during the raid, and having suspiciously 2 jobs and inconsistencies in his original statements to the police. But remember, the gun is not mentioned.
Yeah.
So Chris Ward denies the charge and claimed that the police were harassing him and his family as an attempt to frame him as an inside man in the job. So Ward also complained that the police held him longer than even the way the gang had held his family hostage. By now, the police was still not sure exactly who robbed the bank, but seemingly they were just into a trial and error arrests.
Yes.
So what next for Chris Ward?
Chris Ward therefore was released on bail, and in 2008 a trial was done. The prosecution offered no evidence. Ward was acquitted of all charges and discharged by the judge. Immediately, Chris Ward's defense lawyer filed a suit against the police service of Northern Ireland, and he received a compensation of £952,000, almost £1 million.
So do you want to say that no one was directly caught in this robbery?
Technically still, no one was directly caught apart from people who were found in money laundering crime, in possession of money having serial numbers reported from the Northern Bank robbery. Like someone by the name Ted Cunningham was found with banknotes which was involved in the Northern Bank robbery amounting to around £3 million. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison. His son also was convicted on the same charges, but Cunningham Sr. appealed and his conviction was quashed by the Court of Criminal Appeal and released by May 2012. The court decided that the warrant used to search his house was invalid. Nevertheless, he was rearrested again and retried in 2014, pleaded guilty, but he avoided prison because of his bad health, and he received a 5-year suspended sentence, while the money that he was arrested with was given to the state. So in 2020, Cunningham sued the Northern Bank regarding impounded money, alleging that they had seized his money improperly. He was then compensated a whopping £3.2 million in damages. This is a situation whereby money was being lost during investigation instead of money being recovered.
And how was this stolen money controlled from being saturated in the public?
After totally failing to nab the robbers, the Northern Bank announced after that it would replace its notes with new banknotes, and it would have different colors, new logos, and altered serial numbers. Meaning that the uncirculated banknotes which had been stolen would be hard to spend. And as of 2018, the heist remained to be one of the largest in the history of both United Kingdom and Republic of Ireland. And nobody had been held directly responsible up to date. It has been the largest cash robbery in the history of United Kingdom.
This man!
And as I take my sip, I ask you, please subscribe to my YouTube channel for more stories like this one. Thank you for subscribing, and see you in the next story.
Bye-bye.